Hi. I'm sorry, I don't have the Kimberly, walk and wave at the same time thing. So good morning. My name is Guy Kawasaki. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the production people to take up the audience lights because I want to take a selfie so I can prove to my children that I spoke in Madison Square Garden. So, yeah, all right. All righty. Okay, thank you for joining me. I'll see you later. Enjoy the con. So listen, kind of cross this off my bucket list. I performed at the Madison Square Garden, so I'm a happy man now. I'm going to talk to you today about the art of disruption. This is something that I learned at Apple as a venture capitalist, as an entrepreneur, chief evangelist of Canva, Mercedes-Benz brand ambassador. I've had a difficult time in my career holding down a full-time job. And I'm going to pass on to you what I've learned from all these people, all these experiences, and especially Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a humongous influence on me. So speaking of, let's start with this first picture. This is a picture around 1984. This is the Macintosh division in front of our building. I'm in the upper left-hand corner of that picture. You can barely see me. One of the big mistakes I made in my career is that I really never anticipated how successful Apple would become. And if I were smart enough, I would have stood in the front of this picture so I could be recorded in history. And I also quit Apple twice, so that's not exactly a sign of intelligence. Had I stayed either time, I probably wouldn't be speaking right now. I'd be in Tahiti. So having said that, this is a great group of people. I think it's the largest collection of egomaniacs in the history of California. And that's saying a lot because there are a lot of egomaniacs in California. The most important person in this picture is, of course, Steve Jobs. He's there in the front. And this is a very important picture for one more reason, which is this is the only known time that Steve Jobs got down on his knees for anybody. So whenever people find out that I work for Apple, they want to hear Steve Jobs' story. So let me give you some insights into him. He was a very difficult person to work for. Make no mistake about it. But I think as you look back on your life and you think about the teachers you've had in your life, when you're in school, you probably want the easy teacher. But when you're out of school, when you're 20 years beyond school, probably the most difficult teachers, the most challenging teachers are the ones that added the most value to your life. And I would say that this is the same thing for me with Steve Jobs. He was the most difficult person I worked for, but he taught me the most. I learned the most from him, and I became the best business person I could because of him. I owe a lot to Steve Jobs. I think the world is a lot less interesting without Steve. Having said that, I can guarantee you that he's telling God what to do right now. And if you don't like Universe 1.0, stick around because Steve is working on Universe 2.0. I could tell you that it's going to be late, it's going to be expensive, and none of the cables you have will work, okay? But it'll be worth it. So this is the Macintosh division. Back then, Apple was two divisions, Macintosh division, Apple II division. Apple II division was making all the money. Macintosh division was spending all the money. And the Macintosh group was so arrogant because we were picked by Steve, special rules, unlimited supplies of drinks and stuff. And we had a special travel policy. Any flight over 2 hours qualified for first-class travel. I defined the 2 hours as to begin from the moment you left your apartment. So I would fly first class everywhere. I'd fly first class from, if I flew from LaGuardia to Kennedy, I would fly first class. I had a great time. It was a great time. And I learned all about disruption. So what you're about to hear are the lessons that I learned about disrupting, and mostly from Steve Jobs. May he rest in peace. For those of you who have not seen me speak before, I have watched high-tech speakers for about 30 years, and there's two things I noticed about them. First of all, almost all of them suck. Seriously, almost all of them suck. You're lucky you're at a conference and none of the speakers suck, but most high-tech speakers suck. They also go long, and that is a deadly combination. If you suck and you're short, it's okay. And if you're great and you're long, it's okay. But sucking and going long, that's like being stupid and arrogant. It is just a deadly combination. So what I do is I use a top 10 format for my speeches so that in case you think I suck, you know about how much longer I'll suck, okay? So first thing that I learned from Steve, really, is that if you truly want to be disruptive, you cannot ask your current customers what to do. Your current customers can tell you how to evolve what you're already doing, how to make a better, faster, cheaper Apple II. But they cannot tell you how to make a Macintosh. So my first lesson, which may be contrary to all the marketing you've learned, all the marketing instincts that you have, this concept that you go to your existing customers, you ask them what they want, you come back to the labs, you build it, and you give it to them, and that's innovation, that's disruption. I disagree. Steve Jobs didn't ask the Apple II customers what they wanted. There's two interpretations of what Steve Jobs could do. One is that he could truly anticipate where people were going to be years ahead of where they are. Or Steve Jobs built what he wanted to have, and then he convinced people to like it. I would go with the second theory. That's the genius of Steve Jobs. My recommendation is if you truly want to disrupt the market, you cannot ask your current customers. You need to figure it out by yourself. It needs to be about your passion, your vision, your interpretation of what's going to happen with the world. Step number one, don't ask customers. Step number two is to jump to the next curve. This is where it gets interesting, because Macintosh was not a better Apple II. And the iPhone, iPod, iPad was not a better Macintosh. It's about getting to the next curve. A very historical example. There used to be an ice harvesting industry in the United States, Ice 1.0, late 1800s, early 1900s. This meant that Bubba and Junior would get a frozen pond, they would get a saw and a sleigh and a horse, and they would cut blocks of ice. They would harvest ice. 9 million pounds was harvested in 1900. 30 years go by, we have Ice 2.0. With Ice 2.0, now we have an ice factory. You freeze water centrally and you deliver it. This is a big advantage. Now, it could be any time of the year, any city. It did not have to be winter. It did not have to be cold. 30 more years go by, and we have Ice 3.0. This is the refrigerator curve. This is even better, because now the Iceman doesn't have to deliver ice to your house. You have your own personal ice factory, a PC, if you will, a personal chiller. The interesting fact is that none of the ice harvesters became ice factories, and none of the ice factories became refrigerator companies, because most companies start on a curve, stay on the curve, and die on the curve. It's because they define their business in terms of what they already do, as opposed to the benefits they provide. If you want to be a disruptor, you need to get to or create the next curve. Let's look at maps. With Map 1.0, it's paper. If you're really cool, maybe it's PDF, but it's static. I love Map 2.0. Map 2.0 is now a digital map. It can be upgraded. But even that wasn't that good. It's Map 3.0. With Map 3.0, with something like Waze, well, now I can tell you that I want to go from Palo Alto, California to Santa Cruz, California. That means going 280 to 85 to 17 to 1. But Waze knows that that's the path, 85 to 17. But it says that 17 route in red is totally stopped. So Waze is telling you dynamically, get off 85, take Winchester to Los Gatos, Saratoga Road, and then get on 17. Map 1.0, Map 2.0, Map 3.0. Get to the next curve. And this is the slide that should scare all of you. This is a slide you never, ever want to be on. Because if you define your business as adding chemicals to paper, the paper is exposed to light, the paper is then exposed to more chemicals, and finally, we get our memory. Or you expose paper with chemicals and it develops instantly, and then you get your memory. Then you're Kodak and Polaroid, and you do not embrace digital photography. If you're Wang and you define yourself as we're in the word processing business as opposed to the information business, you don't get to the computer curve. And if you're Smith Corona and you define your business as making mechanical typewriters, you don't get to the information age. This is the curve. This is the slide. This is the group of companies you never, ever want to join. Stay off this slide. Get to the next curve. Define your business in terms of the benefits you provide, not how you provide them. If you are in the business of if you're in the business of preserving memories, it does not matter if you're adding film with chemicals, paper with chemicals, or digital sensors. Get to the next curve. If you're providing convenience and cleanliness with refrigeration, it can be cutting blocks of ice. It can be freezing water centrally. It can be refrigerators. Get to the next curve. The next concept is to make an MVVP. Most of you have heard of the concept of making an MVP, the minimum viable product. I would like to add 2 more Vs. This is an example of a minimum viable, validating, and valuable product. 2 more Vs. The 2 Vs that I'd like to add are valuable and validating. Viable means you can make money with it. But you can make money with stuff that is not valuable, that you have not dented the universe, that you have not made the world a better place. So your test for what you're creating is that it should be viable, the ability to make money, but it should also be valuable, that you're changing the world. And the last V that I'd like you to add is validating, that it is somehow proving your theorem. It's proving your vision of how the world will evolve. So as you sit down and you have this beaten into your brain, rapid prototyping, it's okay to fail, fail fast, pivot, all the great sayings that you've heard, add 1 more. You want something that's minimally viable, valuable, and validating. The Macintosh 128K was viable. Apple succeeded with that product. It was valuable. It changed the user interface of computers forever after. And it was validating that more people wanted to use computers, that there were more people than just geeks and nerds who wanted to use computers. There was a computer for the rest of us. That's the bar you should pass. Minimum, viable, valuable, and validating. MVVP. Number 4 is to make design count. User interface design, industrial design. I think many people, when they try to disrupt things, they don't pay attention to the final appearance, the edge where your customer actually uses the product. And this is one thing that Apple, Google does extremely well. Design counts. It is not just the algorithm, not just the science, not just the magic underneath the surface. It's also the surface. This is a picture of Burrell Smith. He was an analog engineer for the Macintosh division, musician. He designed the analog board. One of the key concepts that I learned from Steve is that engineers are artists. They are artists. Their palette may be a compiler. Their palette may be AutoCAD, but they are artists. They're not this thing that you stick in a corner and you give them some caffeine and out comes lines of code. Okay? They're artists. Treat your engineers like artists if you want to disrupt the world. Number 5 is polarize people. If you're going to disrupt people, you're going to polarize them. Some people will love what you do. Some people will hate what you do. Some people love iOS. Some people hate iOS. Some people love Android. Some people hate Android. That's the way it goes. Some people hate Tesla. Some people love Tesla. This is a picture of a TiVo. TiVo and other things that time shift programs, people like me who travel a lot, we love our TiVos. We love our Xfinity boxes because we want our programs time shifted, right? I cannot watch Designated Survivor when it's being broadcast live. I am never in the right place at the right time. And I need to watch Designated Survivor because it's closer to reality than what's actually going on. So I need to time shift stuff. Polarize people. You know what? I love time shifting. I love my Xfinity box. I love this kind of TiVo stuff. But there are people who hate this stuff, brands and their agencies. Because people like me, we fast forward through every commercial. So if you're a large brand, if you're an agency, you spent millions of dollars creating ads, people like me never, ever watch them. Well, that's not true. We watch them one day a year. That one day a year is the Super Bowl Sunday. And on that day, if you're a 49ers fan, you watch the commercials, not the game, right? Polarized people. Next thing, number 6, is to ignore naysayers. Almost by definition, if you are disrupting the market, you are going to polarize people, and they are going to be naysayers. These naysayers are going to say, it can't be done, it shouldn't be done, it isn't necessary. And when you encounter this, you need to be able to resist these bozos. I think there are 2 kinds of bozos in the world. One bozo, slovenly, disgusting, pocket protector, body odor, a true loser, lousy car, Japanese watch, and you look at this person and you say, wow, you are a loser. This is not the dangerous bozo, because only a loser would listen to a loser. So if you're smart and you're not a loser, the loser bozo is not dangerous. You're going to ignore that person. The dangerous bozo is the rich, famous bozo, because you think rich and famous might equal smart, but rich and famous usually equals lucky. So the dangerous bozo is the bozo I need to inoculate you from. And I think that bozosity is just like the flu. How do we fight the flu? We get a little bit of flu so that when we encounter big flu, we have already built up the resistance. I'm going to give you some bozosity in a little dose now so that when you encounter it in your real life, you'll be able to resist it. One example, I think there is a world market for maybe 5 computers. Thomas Watson, chairman of IBM, 5 computer predictions. I have 5 computers in my house. I have all the computers he anticipated in the world in my house today. This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. The device is inherently of no value to us. Western Union Internal Memo, 1876. How many of you have used Western Union lately? Right? Compared to what? PayPal, Bitcoin, Square. But, you know, if you write off telephony, it's hard to get to the internet, right? Because the chasm is just too big. Maybe Western Union's strategic direction in 1877 was, let's teach Americans the Morse code. How hard could that be? And as they become more mobile with their wagons pulled by horses, motivated by whips, we have to get a mobile solution. So let's get a large bale of wire and add it to the wagon, and the wire will run behind the wagon, and people can have telegraphs in their wagons. Our mobile solution. Because a telephone is inherently flawed. We cannot embrace telephones. There is no reason why anyone would want a computer in their home. Ken Olsen, great entrepreneur, great innovator, great disruptor of the mainframe computer business. He created the mini computer business. But this is a very, very dangerous scenario. Let me tell you why. As an entrepreneur, many people are probably telling you need to get some adult supervision. You need to get someone who's been there and done that. Someone who can provide you real experience, real knowledge, real great advice as an advisor, as an investor, as a board member. And so the temptation is always to say, well, we'll go to someone who's already done it. That person can lead us to the promised land. So if you were 2 guys in a garage starting a computer company, getting Ken Olsen would be a very rational advisor, right? He built DEC. But imagine if you came to Ken Olsen, you bumped into him in an elevator, and you pitched him, and you said, you know, Mr. Olsen, we're from Cupertino, California. We have a different vision of personal computing. We think that computing should be small, cheap, easy to use, Mr. Olsen. So small, so cheap, so easy to use, Mr. Olsen. You could have a computer in your house, Mr. Olsen. And Mr. Olsen says, son, there is no reason why anyone would want a computer in their house. So before you ruin your life, learn COBOL and come work for DEC. And there would be no Apple. You have to learn to resist naysaying. Now, I wish I could tell you, whenever somebody tells you you'll fail, it means you'll succeed. That is not true. But if someone tells you you'll fail and you listen to them and don't try, you will never know. And that's the worst outcome of all. Number 7. Number 7 is something that I learned directly from watching Steve Jobs, which is it is a sign of intelligence and innovation and entrepreneurship and disruption to change your mind. Many of you may have this concept that if I change my mind, it's admitting weakness. It's saying that I'm stupid, I made a mistake. Quite the contrary. Let me show you. So this is the statement that Steve made when he introduced the iPhone. Our innovative approach, using Web 2.0 based standards, lets developers create amazing new applications while keeping the iPhone secure and reliable. This is at the announcement of the iPhone. Let me translate what he's saying. He's saying the iPhone is closed. You cannot write apps for the iPhone. The only way you can add functionality to the iPhone is Safari plugins. All the experts, all the analysts said, Steve, we're not worthy, Steve, we're not worthy. Thank you for keeping our phone secure and reliable. Thank you for keeping it a closed, secure architecture. Okay? June 11, 2007. A year goes by. Worldwide Developer Conference. Apple executives to showcase Mac OS X Leopard and OS X iPhone development platforms at the WWDC 2008 keynote. Let me translate this for you. We are opening the iPhone up. There's going to be SDKs, there's going to be APIs. You'll be able to write native apps for the iPhone. Not just Safari plugins, real apps. This is a 180-degree reversal. The same experts who said, Steve, we're not worthy. Thank you for making it closed, secure, and reliable, said, Steve, we're not worthy. You made it open. That's the right thing to do. He was right both times. That's part of the genius of Steve Jobs. The point here is that he was able to admit a big mistake. He went from closed system to open system in 1 year. A humongous 180-degree reversal. That is a sign of intelligence, of entrepreneurship, of innovation, of disruption. Change your mind. Number 8. Number 8 is all the marketing you need to know. One slide. All the marketing you need to know. There is a vertical axis for the degree of differentiation you have, the uniqueness. There's a horizontal axis for the value of your product or service. This is a 2x2 matrix, okay? And McKinsey would charge you $5 million to tell you this. I'm telling you this for free. You want to be in the upper right-hand corner. Upper right-hand corner. Let's go through all 4 corners. Bottom right-hand corner, you have something valuable, but it is not unique. In this corner, you always have to compete on price. If you slap the same Windows operating system on the same Toshiba hardware, you have to compete on price. You can make billions of dollars there, but it's always about price. In the upper left-hand corner, you have created something truly unique, but it is not valuable. In that corner, you own a market that doesn't exist. In that corner, you are just plain stupid. In the bottom left corner, you are stupid, and there are many other stupid people with you. This is a very crowded corner. In this corner, you've created something not unique and not valuable. Let's take Pets.com. Pets.com, 15 years ago, you buy dog food online. Why was it not valuable? It wasn't valuable because even though you could discount dog food because there was no dog food retailer in the supply chain, you had to add back shipping and handling. So the discount you gave at the top of the invoice was negated by the shipping and handling you added at the bottom of the invoice. And then somebody had to be at home when UPS dropped off the dead cow in the can. So it wasn't convenient and it was expensive, ergo not valuable. Why was it so crowded? Why was it not unique? Why was there Pets.com, MyPets.com, ePets.com, LastMinutePets.com, NewYorkPets.com? It's because of this pitch. Let me give you the pitch. Now, when you hear this pitch, I hope you don't recognize too much of your pitch in it, okay? But this is a very common pitch. 300 million Americans, 1 in 4 owns a dog, 75 million dogs. Each dog eats 2 cans of dog food per day. Total addressable market of 150 million cans of dog food per day. And we're talking about a B2C business, right? This is business to consumer, not B2B. Dogs eat every day. Actually, it's B2D. Dogs eat every day. So we take 150 million cans of dog food multiplied by 365. Oh my God. The total addressable market is hundreds of millions of cans of dog food. And with my rock star programmer co-founder that I met in a drunken spree one night, who I am convinced is going to ship a website on time, totally functional and totally secure, how hard could it be to get a mere 1% of this? That's 1.5 million cans of dog food per day. How and that's why there was pets.com, mypets.com, bpets.com, paypodpets.com, safewaypets.com, because this thing's cutting. Can you hear me? Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah? I told him not to use the Windows mic. Okay, so. Okay. So now we have one more corner, and it's the corner that really matters. It's the upper right-hand corner. In that upper right-hand corner, you are unique and valuable. If you are an engineer, you should lie awake at night wondering, how do I make a unique and valuable product? If you're a marketer, you have to lie awake at night, how do we convince the world that it is unique and valuable? Let me give you some unique and valuable products from my life. First product is a Breitling emergency watch. This watch, if you pull out the big knob at the 5 o'clock position, it starts broadcasting an emergency signal. This emergency signal is caught by airplanes. So if you do this, next thing you know, Kevin Costner is in a Coast Guard helicopter in the wire basket, and he's being lowered to rescue you. So this is not something you do when you took the wrong exit off the Long Island Expressway, okay? This is something you do when you're about to die. But if you are about to die, this is one of the few watches that can save your life. This is a Mercedes-Benz smart car. Everybody has cars that can park parallel to the curb. How many of you have a car that can park perpendicular to the curb when there's not a lot of parking? You know, when the iPod first came out, it was unique and valuable. It was the only way to legally, inexpensively, buy songs from all the major music publishers in a device that a mere human could operate. It's unique and valuable. This is the corner you should be obsessed with. If you are valuable but not unique, you always have to fight on price. If you're unique but not valuable, you're just plain stupid. If you're unique and not, if you're not unique and not valuable, then you're really a .com company. The corner you need to be in is the unique and valuable corner. What will make you unique and valuable? Number 9. Number 9 is something I stole from Chairman Mao, although I failed to see how he ever implemented it in China. It is to let 100 flowers blossom. And by this I mean that as an entrepreneur, you're going to take your best shot at positioning and branding, getting your product out there for your intended market, for its intended use. Hallelujah. You do that, you ship, you take your MVVVP, you ship it, and lo and behold, people who you never anticipated as customers use your product in ways you never thought possible. And when this happens, many companies freak out. My God, the wrong people are using our products in ways we never anticipated. Let me give you some California advice. If you ever encounter a situation where you ship a product and unintended people buy it in large quantities and use it in unintended ways, step number 1 is to declare victory. You cannot be proud. The way it works in Silicon Valley is we throw a lot of things against the wall. Very few of them stick. But for those that do stick, we go up to the wall and we paint the bullseye around it and we say, we hit the bullseye. That's how it works. So with Macintosh, we thought we had a spreadsheet database word processing machine. We were 0 for 3. The flower that blossomed for Apple was desktop publishing. Aldus PageMaker, Adobe PostScript. PageMaker and PostScript saved Apple. If it wasn't for PageMaker and PostScript and desktop publishing, there would be no Apple. Imagine a world without Apple. We wouldn't have had to stay up late last night to put in our order for, iPhone 10. We'd have keypads that really work. We'd have Siri that understood us. We'd have batteries that lasted for more than half a day. It would be a different world. GPS would actually get us to the place we want to go. It would be a different world without Apple. I think that PageMaker and PostScript, desktop publishing, they were gifts from God to Apple. They saved Apple. And I believe in God. And one of the reasons why I believe in God is there is no other explanation for Apple's continued survival than the existence of God. So let 100 flowers blossom. You think you have a spreadsheet database and word processing machine, the market tells you you have a desktop publishing machine. Hallelujah. Declare victory. Of course, we designed Macintosh for desktop publishing. We wanted to democratize the publishing business. That's a lie. We never intended that. We had no idea what desktop publishing was. Let 100 flowers blossom. Number 10. Number 10 is to churn. Did I have number 9? Did I blow through that? I'm like losing my mind. I got the numbers right? Yeah. All right. Number 10. Number 10 is churn, baby, churn. And by this I mean, one of the hardest things about disruption is to go from disruptor to evolver. That is, you leap to the next curve. You create the next curve. You go from ice harvesting to ice factory. But then when you're on the ice factory curve, you have to make your ice factory better and better. When you ship Macintosh, you have to keep churning it. From 1984 till 2017, that's what it took to get an iMac Pro. It takes that long. It's a different skill set. You have to go from creating a revolution to evolving that revolution. This is the most difficult step for true disruptors, because the skills necessary for disruption, i.e. ignoring naysaying, about anticipating the future, about actualizing your vision, is very different from revising and evolving your product or service. But it is so necessary. Disruption is truly not an event. Disruption is a process. And I have one more, a bonus for you. Number 11, because every one of you is going to encounter this as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to pitch. Life is a pitch. Entrepreneurs, if your lips are moving, you are pitching. Okay? Perfect your pitch. Some tips for you. Number 1, customize your introduction. Somehow, customize your introduction. LinkedIn is God's gift to pitching, because before you meet any group of people, you should do the research with LinkedIn. I also like to use pictures when I can. When I'm speaking to an audience of a particular organization or a particular company, I can use pictures. This is an example. This is a picture of an LG washer and dryer. So I was in South America speaking to the South American management of LG. I was in Brazil. And after I got to Brazil, I put 2 and 2 together, and I figured, guy, you own an LG washer and dryer. So what you should have done is taken a picture of your LG washer and dryer and used it to open up your speech. But I wasn't that organized and smart. So I got to Brazil, and I put 2 and 2 together, but I have 4 children. And so I sent a text message to my 2 older boys, and I told them to please get off the Call of Duty that I bought them, on the Xbox that I bought them, in the house that I bought them, and take the iPhones that I bought them and go downstairs and take a picture of the LG washer and dryer that I bought them. Now, if any of you have teenage boys, after 45 minutes, you know what happened. Nothing, exactly. So to set the stage for the next slide, older boy's name is Nick, younger boy's name is Noah. Nick, Noah, okay? So I send a follow-up text message to my son, Nick. I say, Nick, did you get my text messages asking for a picture of the washer and dryer? Nick says, oh, Noah said he's going to do it. By the way, since you're talking to LG, can you get us some free high-definition flat panel TVs? Yeah. Welcome to my life. As I told you, I have 4 children. Noah actually came through. He did send those pictures. Those are the pictures I used. And you know what? Noah is getting more than 25% of my estate. Customize your intro. I love to use pictures. Picture of me in Red Square. And when I use this picture when I spoke at Synergy in Moscow. I opened up with this picture and I said, you know what? I had no idea. You Russians, you really have big balls. This is my favorite illustration of this concept. This is me in the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul. So the guy behind me, he's the shopkeeper. And that guy is so happy. So I was speaking to Turkcell, and I opened up with this picture, showing me in the Grand Bazaar wearing a fez, with the shopkeeper behind me. You see that shopkeeper? You see how happy that guy is? You know what he's thinking? He's thinking, this dumbass American is going to buy this fez. This stinking fez has been in my family's shop for 3 generations. I finally found somebody stupid enough to buy this fez. The point here is that, if you're talking to Turkcell and you open up with a picture of you wearing a fez in the Grand Bazaar, you warm up the audience. You show the audience that you care. Step number 1, customize your intro. Step number 2 is to follow the 10-20-30 rule of PowerPoint or Keynote, whatever you use. The most important rule you could learn about pitching. It is to use 10 slides, maximum of 10 slides. Okay, maybe 12, maybe 13, but not 30. Now, whenever I tell this to people, many people think, yeah, guy, for the great unwashed masses, for the amateur entrepreneur, for the first-time entrepreneur, for the clown, for the bozo, for the stupid person, for the, person who's going to fail. Yeah, that person should use 10 slides, but not me. I have patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, enterprise-class, scalable product or service, a way to sell dog food online. I need 60 slides, okay? That's exactly who I'm talking to. You need 10 slides of all people in the world. Now, you're not a stupid audience. You're hardcore New Yorkers, so I can't pull anything past you. So you're probably sitting there saying, God, you're such a hypocrite. You're so full of shit. Because you're on like number 50 right now. Why are you telling us to use 10, right? That's what you're thinking, right? I know how you are. Okay, so let me explain. You are not me, okay? 10 slides. 10 slides. You should be able to give these 10 slides in 20 minutes. Why 20 minutes when it's a 1-hour meeting? And you know why? It's because, to this day, roughly 85% of the world uses Windows laptops. And I know that when an entrepreneur comes to meet with me and carrying a Windows laptop, that person needs 40 minutes to make it work with the projector. Next tip is the minimum size font should be 30 points. 30 points. A very good rule of thumb is figure out who the oldest person is in the audience, divide his or her age by 2. Talking to 60-year-old people, 30 points. 50-year-old people, 25 points. Someday you may be pitching a 16-year-old VC. God help you. Use an 8-point font that day. And I'm going to give you one more power tip. Make your background black. Seriously, make your background black. Black shows gravitas. It shows professionalism. It shows seriousness. When you show up at any kind of venue and your background is black, most of the time they're going to use a black background too. So you cannot tell where my slide begins and ends. If you use a white slide with black text, and watch the rest of the presenters through this conference, okay? Watch who uses a white slide with black text and who uses a white text with black background, okay? Because I tell you, when you use black background, this is what you're communicating. Well, first, let me tell you what you're communicating if you use a white background. If you use a white background, you're saying, I am a PowerPoint lightweight. I opened up PowerPoint, I selected a new document, and I started typing. That's the white document. If you use a black document, you show that you are a PowerPoint ninja. You went to the master slide page. You selected a black background. You selected a white sans serif, bold font like Arial. Okay? You want to show that you know what the hell you're doing. Black is the new black, okay? Use a black background. Now, I'm going to tell you one more funny story about a black background. So, an entrepreneur meets with me at about 11 in the morning, and he says, guy, I presented my company this morning. I pitched it once this morning. I have about 3 hours. I have another pitch to make. I have 3 hours to kill. So, do you have any tips for me about how I can make my pitch better? This was a black entrepreneur from Georgia. And I said to him, well, is your background black? And he said, yeah, I'm from Georgia. I told you that. I said, no. I can see that you're black. I'm asking you if your PowerPoint background black. So 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30-point font, Make your background black. Before you go into that meeting, look up everybody in the room on LinkedIn. You want to know what school she went to, what college she attended, what MBA program, where she worked, what company she worked that you worked at, who do you know in common? You want to know all that stuff. You're looking for points of commonality. So, the art of disruption is about not asking customers, because they're going to tell you to evolve something, not to create a revolution. You can't ask customers. So you need to create something that gets to the next curve. You should lie awake at night saying, oh, I don't want to be a next Kodak or Polaroid or Wang or Smith-Kuroda. You need to get to the next curve, to go from PDF to Waze. Get to the next curve. And as you do that, keep in mind, it's not just viability. You also want valuable, and you want validating. You need to prove your thesis, your company thesis. And just remember that 2x2 matrix where you're in that upper left-hand corner. You are the iPod of your market. The only thing where you can legally, easily, conveniently get great music. The only way that you can save your life with a watch. The only car that you can park perpendicular to the curb. You're in that high and to the right corner. Get your product out. Then you have to churn, baby, churn. You have to revise it. But above all, to disrupt any market, you cannot listen to the naysayers. Again, I wish I could tell you when everybody says you'll fail, it means you'll succeed. That is not true. But if they tell you you'll fail and you don't even try, if you're Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and Ken Olsen says nobody wants a computer in their house, or you're Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and you read something that the chairman of IBM said only 5 computers will be sold in the world, or you're in 1877 and you're thinking of, wow, maybe this guy, Alexander Graham Bell, has a good idea with phones, but you read that Western Union wrote off telephony and you don't try, you will never know. And that is the worst outcome of all. And that, in as quickly as I can tell you, based on my Apple, entrepreneurship, venture capital, Canva, and Mercedes-Benz experience, is the art of disruption. May you take what I just said. I hope you learn some things from it. I hope you can apply it. I hope you prove me wrong. There are places you could prove me wrong. But above all, I hope you, as Steve Jobs would say, dent the universe. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.